Okay, so I just want to say welcome to Stories of the Sidelines. This is our podcast coming out of Media Gang, where we just discuss the unsung heroes of paintball, stuff like that. Today we have Michael Hinman and Jerry Van Cleve, and we're going to just discuss Wcppl, aftermath, anything that people want to know. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, so let's start off with the basics. Kind of, who are you guys? Where are you from? How you got into paintball? I mean, especially you guys are some powerhouses in the coaching section. Like, how did you get into coaching? Because I'm assuming that you guys were players first.
You want me to take that one, Jer?
You go ahead, Mike.
Mike Hinman. I live in Southern California. Lived here most of my life. 40 years old now. I started playing paintball when I was 13, 14 years old out here in San Diego County. Rose up through the regional ranks. Got into the bushwhacker camp, which a lot of people in Southern California went through the bushwhacker camp. And it was just a place for anybody that wanted to play paintball. You didn't really have to be good to be able to go. Mike Paxson, Ron Kilborn were the heads of it. It's always been Ron's team, but Pax was the driving force behind it, and caught on with them. Pax did a lot for me, worked my way up. Todd Martinez, the other dude that probably Paxson and Todd I owe my career to, if there's anybody I do owe it to. And Todd got me on Shock Tech, and then ultimately over to Aftershock. From there, Todd had gone back to Dynasty. I got a call in the middle of a practice, got invited to a Dynasty tryout in Oakland at Bob Long's house. That's where the field used to be up there.
Shoot.
Flew out Saturday night from Chicago to Dynasty practice. There's a lot. Back then, I was with two young kids flying back and forth from San Diego to Chicago was just a lot. Coming back home to California and playing for Dynasty was a dream come true. And luckily, I made the team and got to play there. And that's where Aftermath got its birth. The original Aftermath was the first season I made it on Dynasty. We had won World Cup that year. You know, I never could have dreamed that I would have won World Cup that year with Dynasty. And in the off season, you know, I mean, the Dynasty guys really live it. You know, Ryan's gone, Oliver's gone, Yosh, everybody's gone, and I'm back home. Back then we had Great American Paint as our sponsor. We could play as much as we wanted. So I just went to SC Village and found some young kids that wanted to play paintball against me, you know, 2-on-1s. We had so much paint that I could give a kid a case of paint to just do drills and just play paintball against me, because I realized I wasn't that good. Like, I was okay, but I wasn't Dynasty good, right? That's like the Yankees. And that's where Aftermath really came from, you know? We started it there, and these kids just worked so hard. And, you know, back then I knew who all the good young paintball players, the Marcellos, guys like that, Rainey. Mouse was actually introduced to us by LJ, which Justin Schwartz is a sales rep at HK. He used to play for the Dynasty Ironmen. He literally walked up to me in the parking lot, was like, "Hey, this kid Alex," and Mouse was just a little kid. And, you know, he wants to play paintball every weekend. You're starting a kid's team or whatever, put him out there. And, you know, 15 minutes later, Mouse walked up with his box of paint and all 52 pounds of him, because he was tiny. And, you know, we started playing paintball. Right? He was so small back then, you know, we didn't have turf. When he would dive, he would just like skip across the ground because there was no momentum behind him running. And Mouse will tell you the same thing too. Like, he was so small, we broke his arm one time because we were letting the air out of the bunkers, and he was on top of the bunker, and everybody dove on one side of it and launched him. He was so small.
No.
I shit you not. He flew 20 feet in the air and landed with his arm underneath him and literally snapped his forearm. He was just a little kid, but that's how Aftermath started. I gave I always had a big heart for it, and I never forgot where I came from. And I gave the kids the opportunity to either play Huntington Beach 7-man or PSP Pomona. They won Pomona. I think they might have won at Huntington. And at that point, you can't pull the rug out from under them. They were just a young Divisional 3 team. But it was just cool, you know, and with Dynasty, you know, people will never give them the credit that they deserve. Dynasty never gutted Aftermath when they could have. A lot of these other pro teams don't develop talent. That's a fact. The top pro teams, tell me, like X Factor, for sure. Has, like, that's BK, those guys out of Texas are all homegrown. But a lot of the other top teams, they just go scalp other teams and take all the talent. And Dynasty never did that. They allowed Aftermath to stay hold. Right. They really haven't, you know, and if they did, there's players that have gone back and forth. would be totally understandable. But as kids, I mean, the Ironmen definitely worked to destroy the original Aftermath just because they didn't have talent, right? They didn't cultivate talent, and we did. So that's kind of where I came from with that. And since then, Aftermath has come and gone a couple times. Really, the newest incarnation started from Anthony Farradelli out in Las Vegas, was just a divisional kid and always would message me, hey, man, if there's ever a chance to have you come out and coach us, we'll pay you money. I've never taken $1 from anyone. I'm just another paintball guy like you are. So I went out and helped him. He was like, man, these kids have some heart. Again, I'm not going to say the same level of heart that Marcelo and, Whisper and Compton Ray and all the Rory, all the original guys had, Ronnie Filipponi. Not the same, but I saw a little sparkle there. So we started building it, and obviously the newest one completely, the original cast was gone within a year and had been built into a top-level semi-pro team that within whatever 8 events from when we started it would earn a pro spot and be into the pro division.
Yep.
So I'm sure I'm missing a ton of stuff in there, but I've been coaching, being part of this for 25 years now.
Yeah.
So,
oh wow,
Jesus.
Kind of the who and what.
That's a hell of a resume.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into paintball, like your name was one of the names that I heard of as coaches when I first started. So I mean, it resonates all the way over to the East Coast. I mean, you're a staple.
Yeah, I just got lucky, man. Like it's not like I'm some great mind of the sport. I was just mindful enough to have 2 ears and 1 mouth and listen twice as much as I talked and try to absorb some of it, because I got to play with Oliver in his heyday and all those guys, and even the guys on Aftershock, Billy Saransky, Todd Adamson, Ryan Williams, Danny Love, like the old school shot guys. Gary Noblet came around for a couple events. Psalm was around. Like all those guys from the Midwest, I really soaked up a lot. Brian Benini gave me my first paintball gun. There was a sponsored gun. I just soaked up a lot. I really got lucky that I was, like the Dynasty guys, they're a family. So when I was done playing and they needed a coach, they reached out, and, I was happy to go back and just hang out with guys that I and got to play some, win some paintball tournaments, win a championship in maybe I was 30 old or 20 something as a coach, and keep it going.
Yeah. Jerry.
Yeah. No, I'd love to hear the flip side of that coin, Jerry.
Yeah. Jerry, who are you? What do you do?
I'm out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I started paintball like I want to say it was 2011, maybe 2011.
Oh, so
and it was just like
recently new then, comparatively speaking.
Yep. And it started with like a birthday party. I had a bunch of like rental equipment, and people out there were just smoking us left and right, like the whole party group. And it's like, all right, well, obviously there's an unfair advantage there, right? The equipment was horrible compared to what they were doing. So then like, I was like, I got to up the ante. Like I'm having a lot of fun here, but I'm just getting jack stomped into the ground. And so I went and ordered my first gun. I went out and played every freaking weekend. And then it's like, it came to a point where it was so expensive. It was like, all right, well, like at some point you got to like figure out a way to like kind of monetize a little bit and try to get some money back if you're going to play like every weekend. So at the time in Arizona, there was like really no like, so I left the rec ball because I got kind of bored of it. And then I started playing more of like the air ball and just playing with some kids from the rec ball field. And then, realized that, like there was no events out here in Arizona. There was like a small little league type deal, but, it was kind of like, really kind of like a ripoff per se. Like, you hear rumblings, like people weren't just getting prizes. People were getting like ripped off and just like not being, true and just being, like to your word on, what you're going to do and deliver. Right. And so then I was like, all right, well, it's time to like, let's just raise the stakes and let's start running some local events. So I started running some local events, not really sure like what to do or for like prizes. At the time, like Mike was, like I would hit up Mike every once in a while just because I knew about the WC. Be like, hey, Mike, I'm going to run like 3 events out here in Arizona. I know your finale is like out in Vegas. Great field, buddy, when he was running it out there at Extreme Paintball Park off of Craig Road next to the park where the NXL goes. Be like, I know you have the finale out there. Would you mind throwing a free entry, for a winning team here for a local series? And Mike was always gracious and be like, sure, send your winning team out. We'll take care of them. And that's kind of like the relationship, how it kind of like built between Mike and I. And then I started going out to some WCs with some local Arizona teams, and he was always, very, just like respectful, always wanting to know like how teams were doing, like obviously it's very hard at a WC, seeing it from this side of the view now, because there's just so many players and so many teams that are competing. Like it's hard to watch all of them, but like Mike would legitimately, for as much as he could, watch all of the teams at least once just to kind of gauge and see his friends compete and all that kind of stuff. And, so that kind of like transpired over the course of like 2 seasons. And then I was like, well, it's kind of like a crossroads with the PSP. So I was like, man, like, I feel like I could probably do a little bit more, but like, what can I do? And so I launched a league series called XPL, which the first event was out of Phoenix, and it was in a February. And most people don't know it, but it's the exact format that the NXL created. Exact mercy rule and all. Before it didn't exist, I had the mercy rule in play. Didn't leverage the split deck. Like that was a great invention, like that they came up with a concept, just because, like Mike and I both know, like the leading cause of an event or trying to run it is time, right?
Yeah.
And with the old format of a single teams playing, like you literally would just have so much dead time on the field. And it was just a nightmare for scheduling, right? So you only had a maximum amount of teams. So with the split deck, it tremendously improved the amount of teams you could have efficiency wise on less amount of fields. So I ended up setting up and I didn't have scoreboards or anything like that. And Mike's like, you can use mine. And the guys brought from California, the refs brought them out, all the equipment up, we're setting it up. And this is in February. So I'm an hour behind in Phoenix. So Mike's like literally an hour behind me in time. And all this equipment shows up. And none of it had the right cabling for, like, back in the day with the old boards, you had to have like these USB to serial like adapters. And I literally had these basically boards with no functionality. And at the time I called Mike, I'm like, Mike, I don't know what to do. These stores are closed. It's like 9:00. And Mike literally was like, I'm on my way to Best Buy. I'll call you in 5 minutes. Calls me back in 5 minutes, shows me a screenshot. He's like, these are what you need. Buys 3 or 4 of them. He's like, I'm on my way. I'll be there by 4 a.m. What time's the first game? I was like, the first game's like at 7. And sure enough, he drove all night long from California and is there waiting for me when I show up Saturday morning to launch this event. We set up the boards. They're good. He's like, are you good, Jerry? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And like, he has no stake in the game at all, like none whatsoever. This is the kind of person that he was, for me, whenever I was starting to, try to like launch some big events. Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to go hit the Cracker Barrel. I'll be back. Let me know if anything comes up. He goes and eats, comes back. Everything's running smooth. He's like, I'm dead tired. I'm going to go sleep for a little bit and I'll head back to California. And then from that point forward, the relationship was there, right? Like, like when somebody will be willing to drive 6.5, 7 hours all night long for an event that is meaningless to them, that have no skin in the game. There's nothing that really was driving him to do it other than the fact that he had the love for the sport and love to help a friend out that needed it to be done. Like that was enough to sell, for me to go and like, hey, like, listen, what do you want to do? Let's do something together. And so like, the event like really like tore me apart. I was out there at the park for like 2 weeks straight, cleaning paint off the turf. Like it was a nightmare to clean up. I did it all. I did everything from start to finish. And I remember the message, Mike, it was like, hey, so was it worth it? And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Mike remembers, my wife was like, no, it wasn't worth it. I literally am done. I'm literally exhausted. I have nothing to give. I am done. And he was, and I'm like, if you ever, and at the time he had another partner in the league that was helping him logistically, Huey, one of the Aftermath guys, and good friend of Mike and family and stuff. And I was like, obviously I know that you already have like another, full on partner, but if you guys ever need any help or support or whatever, just let me know. I can't do this by myself. Like it's just not logistically possible. And he was like, come ride. And at that point in 2000, I want to say it was 2014, we've been riding ever since.
That's awesome.
And
that's a story.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Mike, you sound like you're an incredible friend. I need a friend like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people look at the league like, it's like any business, right? People look at a paint factory or a paintball field and they do these raw numbers that these got to be making so much money and there's just a ton of money in it. And I just gave Jerry $1 million Shark Tank lifeline to be a part of a league owner. I mean, really, when you own part of a league, you just own part of a fucking headache. You know what I mean? Like the WCPL, I mean, the numbers are quite simple. How many teams we had by the entries, you can get a gross number, then do 21,000 in cash. The fields out here get paid a king's ransom more than anywhere else in the nation. Yeah. Way north of $15,000 sometimes. Crazy.
Oh yeah.
Trophies, referees, just do the math. Refs don't get paid enough as it is, right? They really don't. Like $150, $200 a day, and then some hotel rooms to get the piss shot out of them all weekend. And we wonder why refs don't make good calls. You couldn't pay me. If $500, I would be like, maybe, and I'm standing 30 feet off the sideline.
No shot.
Right? Like there's just no way. So for us, like for me, somebody can have the league for that matter, as long as the players are taken care of, that's always been the goal of the WCPL. So like bringing Jerry in was a no-brainer, right? Plus, to be fair, I've been doing it, 12 years now or whatever. You lose some steam after a while, right? And I totally understand where the players come from. I see all the comments and I hear what people have to say. And it's interesting, right? Until you've been on the other side of the coin and you understand it from the league, every league promoter, from California to New York and everywhere else around the world. People think that, league promoters are out to get people. I mean, my first couple seasons, I didn't realize living in California that between Northern California and Southern California, there was such a divide because there's collusion and like we're trying to pull for the Southern California teams. I drove home from Dave Bain's field one time from an event and I'm reading these emails of people just motherfucking me into the ground. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the rule book is written in pen, not pencil. I just executed the rule book as it is. So be it. And after a while, I don't want to say I was burnt out because I love paintball. I just don't like hearing the crybabies and that's our whole society, right? People don't stop and understand it from somebody else's point of view. Oh, there's not enough parking. There's not enough referees. Man, we got 10 refs out there. Yeah. Most other leagues have 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
If you're got a ref per player.
Right. We really are doing the most we can. So I had gotten to a point, and Lane Wright from the PSP had said to me, they used to invite me to the year-end meetings. I don't know why, because I wasn't an owner. I wasn't part of the league. Him, Youngblood, Rail, all those guys would be there. And I would listen to them talk. And, as a young man, I'd bring points up to them. And Lane said to me one time, he goes, they all love you right now, Mike. But watch. In time, they're going to hate you just like they hate us. And, hearing Lane say that, I was skeptical of that statement. And then over the years, I sit back and I hear what these people say. And I've watched all these leagues try to go against me and fail. And it's just been crazy because it's like, man, if anybody actually sat down and talked to me, this isn't about me or Aftermath or APX or any of that. Nobody pays $1 to be a sponsor at my league. Not $1. Like everybody is welcome to come. Everybody is welcome to come. Paint companies, I had the other big guy there. They paid $2 a case less for every case they sold than APX did because that big paint company did give me a brand new field and they paid less than my own company did. You can't get more straight up than that. You know what I mean? Like there's everybody pays the same price. Everybody pays $30 a case. That's what it is. People say,
you got $30 a case? Yeah, I'll fly it out. I'll play the next one. 100%. It's like $50 a case at events out here.
But to be fair to the other league promoters with that, like I bought a paint company so I could do that. Not many people get the opportunity and spend $1 million to own their own paint company. And I'm still not sure if it was the greatest move, but I totally put my money where my mouth was and bought a company just so I can do what I want. And because, you realize having a league, and GI was always great to me. And listen, if you're not going to buy my paint and you're going to buy somebody's paint, buy GI's paint, buy HK's paint out of Mexico, support people in Northern California, especially GI. As much as those dudes take hand grenades left and right, they really have done a ton for the game. And back when, but before I had a company and before APX was out here, GI helped me a ton with my league. Like they really did. Like Opie up there, and long before he was there, Richmond, all those guys have totally helped me out. But it just came to a point where I realized for myself, I needed to be able to vertically control what we're doing. And again, I'm not throwing any stones at anybody. Listen, people know that I own a paint factory. If GI wasn't here, 80% of the businesses would go out within a couple weeks because there wouldn't be enough paint. So with that being said, GI needs to be here, and they're a great force in the game. They get some flack for decisions they make, but heavy is the head that wears the crown, and those guys definitely wear the crown, right? So for me and our little league out here, when we had an opportunity to get a paint company and be able to have a say in pricing and so on, who told me was Giovanni, the guy that owns SC Village and Giant Sports.
Yeah.
Really smart guy. Giovanni once told me when 7-man and X-Ball were dueling against each other, he goes, Mike, any format that requires more than 20 boxes of paint to get to the prelims. And right there in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this fucking old guy is talking about boxes of paint. They're cases of paint, Gio. Cases of paint. Yeah. But he goes, anything that needs more than 20 cases is going to have a hard time. And I'm, again, 27 years old. I thought I knew everything. And I thought he was crazy because X-Ball was so much fun. But there's a truth to it. There's a truth to what he said is financially, listen, everybody wants to play X-Ball. Everybody wants to shoot 15 balls a second, fully automatic, 20-minute matches and all this BS. But the truth is they just can't afford it. I mean, I'd love to have a Rari parked out front, but I got the Ford out there. So, for me, it was how do I make a business model? How do I build something that I can be a little more sustainable? And the difference between $50 a case or $40 a case and $30 a case is a big difference for a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
I see them. The guys shoot 70 cases to get through the finals, and man, every $5 adds up.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And a lot of these other leagues that are charging $40 or $50, to be fair to them, they're paying around the same range that I'm selling paint for. So I can understand, and that's their only profit center they have. Everybody out there should not go flame their local league for being more than the WC is. That's not what it's about.
Exactly. You had an opportunity to do something that, correct me if I'm wrong, that for the most part nobody has done. Nobody has had a league and then bought a paint company so that they control the paint for their league, or really, I don't want to say
GI. To be fair, with GI built X-Ball, right? Like that's Richmond Italia's, and some other people were involved with Richmond. That's his thing, his format that he did. And since then it's, changed or mutated into what it is now. But that was GI. But back then, it was a whole different industry back then. Like people paid $20 a case more wholesale so the industry could give back more to the teams. We've now come to a place where everybody wants a sub $20 case of paint and wonders why their local team can't get 1 million free paintballs. Like it's been a race to the bottom since then,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a unique situation for us, for sure.
No, that's amazing. I mean, kudos to everything that you guys have done so far. And you've definitely made a business model so that you can create a league so that players do want to come play for you guys. Because I know I've talked to people that come out from Colorado, like coming down from Oregon, and like even just outside of the California area to come play your league because of things that they've heard. I mean, Sam has flown out from Florida to come shoot it on the media side.
Amazing experience.
I've been asked to come out and come play or shoot from the Warpath guys, or the Violence guys have told me to come out and come shoot it. So I mean, keep doing what you're doing because you're definitely making a name for yourself. I
mean, we're the longest running, I think, at a large level. I mean, we've been at a lot of teams for a long time, and it's consistently getting better. I mean, the Rona thing has definitely put a wrench in everybody's sprocket, right? Like, I think 2020 will be known as the year that everybody just tries to stay alive and get into next year. And I do mean that literally.
Yeah,
Like,
it's rough.
I think that's for all of us, leagues, fields, businesses. Like, there's going to be a wave that's felt down this thing as we continue to go, like this industry will be felt. Like, how can it not be?
No, exactly. And somebody said to me that like paintball's a luxury sport. It's the only sport
Without
that
a doubt.
you need to pay to go practice. Anything else you can go practice like in an open field. But with that being said, like you guys have done so much for the WCPPL. I mean, to make it the premier league that it is, like, what do you guys feel that you've done that maybe some other leagues haven't done or should try to do to get it to the same place? Because you guys pull like 100 to 200 teams events.
No, we had over 100 teams signed up for our first one. Then the Rona hit, and I think like you said, a lot of the teams that have to get on a plane are not getting on a plane.
Yeah,
we totally understand it. I mean, we capped it at 70 some teams at the last one because that's 2 fields, 3 days about what we could run. But to answer that question, and I'm not, I'm definitely let Jerry jump in here at some point, but it's simple. The WCPL is not ran as a profit center for Jerry and Mike and anybody else involved in the league. The WCPL was built really as a break-even business, right? And that's tough to be in business on a break-even model. But the goal was not to treat it as a profit center. Jerry wasn't around back in the original 7-man days when WDP Angel was putting on 7-man events, but they were using it as a platform for sponsors to show their products off. And that was in the heyday of paintball. But for the WCPL, our business model has not been to make, $10,000, $20,000 a weekend on the backs of the regular paintball players, while Jerry and I, count our cash running out the back door. It's been, how can we raise the bar? How can we make a business model on the West Coast that teams can play? And listen, when the teams get good, there's a lot of the DMG pro guys came through the WCPL. I'm not saying we're the reason, but there's a lot. I see a lot of the pro rosters, and as I click on them, if you've played in the WCPL, I can see your phone number. There's a lot of pro rosters where some of those guys have come through our league. The WCPL business model is a stepping stone to get to the pro division or semi-pro, like a lot of the mutiny guys through Violence and Collision, David Ramirez's camp. Like, I'm happy to see that. The Pirates, for a while, they had a team in semi-pro that did good. Mm-hmm. Fusion from up north did good.
Yep.
I'm happy to see those teams come through here, and hopefully they can get to the next level. DMG's pro team, great to see Dave as a pro coach with Impact and Champion still have a divisional team where a lot of those guys, Dylan and Jordan, Amir, like a lot of those kids came through here getting to the top. And that's kind of the goal of the WC. We don't want to run paintball. We just want to have a, reasonably priced and a fair experience for our players to be able to play in the WC. And hopefully you guys get great and move up to the top, and we can just wave at you guys and say, hey man, you fucking did it. Way to be. There's a vertical ladder where you can come in D5 and go all the way up, and your next stop is semi-pro. And that's, I think, how a lot of leagues should do it. But I think, and I've posted this on Facebook, I think a lot of leagues start out and then they start looking at the money sense, but I wanted to keep it going. And I think a lot of other promoters end up evolving into a place where it's more of a profit center. And I'm not going to knock anybody for making money. It's American, right? Like, we're a capitalist society. Go for it. But that's where you hear a lot of the grumblings come in, is when people are paying $50 a case for a paint that may not be as good as other batches of paint. Simple way to put it. That's where the issues start coming in. For us, how are you going to beat us up? Like, the entry fee money is all going to the venue, the prizes, and what, you're paying $30 a case for tournament paint out of a reeferred 18-wheeler. Like, if you can get a better deal, rock out, man. We totally understand. But that's how the WCPL has been successful, and that's how we're going to continue to be successful. And I truly believe at 20 years and 25 years, the WCPL is still going to be here, because when you put the players, I constantly think, as the Aftermath owner, as the guy that won pro championships with Dynasty, and the kid that started playing paintball with his dad, this is what I would want. And if you keep that in your forefront of your thought process, it's kind of hard to go astray and to screw that up. Have I made mistakes? Yeah. I constantly pull my shoe out of my mouth, right? Like, without a doubt. But the players are truly what we care about. APX paint? Listen, if GI wants to sell all the paint in my league, if they can somehow help my players out more than I can help them out, rock out, dude. HK, Valken, anybody like that. That is not a negative shot. Do it, man. Help the players out. You know, if anybody else wants to start a league out here against us, go for it, man. It's only going to make us better. You know, Edwin in the UPL, like his league definitely helped my league. You know, it was competition, and competition drives excellence for the players. You know, if there's no other leagues out there, it's easy for people to become really complacent. We've all done it. I've done it. Yeah. It's just natural to do that. When you have, I think the best thing for paintball is when you have at least two companies competing on a platform, because it definitely pushes innovation and pushes the experience for the player. And that's what really matters.
Yeah. Jerry, feel free to hop in anytime you want, by the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to just tag on to it. Like when you talk about like, kind of like the existence or, you know, like why has the WC been so successful? And I think it comes back to like the ground roots, right? And this is before my time when Mike started it, right? It was like the end of XPSL. And he literally looked around and was like, man, with XPSL, which is mainly based out of Vegas, I think that's correct, where they had big, huge, like amateur events, you know, 100+ teams and like 3 divisions, and literally draw the entire West Coast into these events. Mike's like, without anything here, there's a lot of these teams that I practice with, friends that I know, that literally can't afford the national fees. And then if I don't do something, no one will. And if no one will, this is all going to die and just slowly be done. And so in the beginning stage, like the beginning seasons, like I would probably say the first 3 or 4, literally Mike would take cash out of his own pocket, regardless of the amount of teams, and guaranteed the cash prizes that he was giving. So it didn't matter if he had 5 teams or 60 teams, whatever it was delivered. And I think that goes a long way. Like for somebody and you see like some of these events where they have minimum teams, which is 100% understandable, right? Like people don't want to lose their shorts, but Mike literally betted on himself and was like willing to take a loss for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it took, so that it could be sustainable. And gaining that loyalty with the player base is like unmatched. When you see like Sam, you were at the event, like the legitimately, there's teams that have been competing with our league for 10 years. Some of the players have been there from the very beginning. And it was Mike and his tenacity of saying like, whatever I say is what I'm going to do, regardless of how much I'm going to lose on it, goes 100% to loyalty and the word. And one thing I have always, you know, Mike would always say, whether we were with the team or the league, is like there's one certainty that you have in life, and that's your word. And once you lose that, it's done. You have nothing else. And so he showed so many teams that, hey, it doesn't matter what the output is or what the counts are, whatever we say, that's what we're going to do. I mean, I remember going up to Capital Edge one event with, you know, like I think it was in 2016 or 2015, and it was me, Mike, and Huey. And this is after the entries are already paid. This is after all the paint sales that we paid everyone, the rest, the field, the prizes. And literally there was $5 sitting there, and we're like, all right, well, how many chicken nuggets are we going to get? And literally we did that event to help everyone else. So everyone said we wouldn't go to Northern California. It was hot. It was miserable. I was dehydrated on the plane, and we did it for the love of the game. And literally, and whether we'd have to pay money to pay for the prizes, like we were willing to do whatever it took and continue to do whatever it takes to make sure that people always have a great time, the best product that we can possibly put out there for them, and that everything that we say we're going to do, we guarantee that we're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have, I work in advertising, and it's amazing what you guys have done. You guys haven't just made fans of the brand of Wcppl, but you've made evangelical fans. It's not just, I like you guys, I'm going to say that I like you, but it's more of like, I'm going to push the message of Wcppl out to other people. I'm going to try my hardest to get other people to come play your league because you guys have done so well for me. And it goes back to you saying that you stick to your word. There's no like the prize package, whatever you guys posted, it is. Doesn't matter how many teams come, like that's what it is. It's something that I've seen on the East Coast a lot is that like we cap out at 10 teams, but we need like a minimum of 6 to run the event to do like a minimum prize package. And I always see teams going, it's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to win because I don't really know how many teams are playing until like the day of, because I need to track who's paying entry. So it's interesting to see how this is a way that you guys have stood out against other leagues. I mean, except for like the NXL and the PSB, or like the MPPL, which consistently had large team bases. So like they really didn't have an issue of, do we have enough to do like these prize packages?
I mean, a lot of it, and it also comes down to like, you see a lot of the leagues, other regions, and maybe their market share or market is, but you see a lot of these different locations and the players rank out of the system, right? And they have no other choice. The WC is the only regional event series that you basically can't rank out of, especially now with Premier. With that new division that we have, literally you could be playing, it's our version of the semi-pro. So unless you're playing in the professional division and winning, you can sit there and play from Division 5 all the way up and compete and keep competing. And there's always fresh blood coming there. These other leagues and other promoters can easily do it. It's just that they don't really necessarily want to put the risk. Mike put the risk 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And now we're able to constantly be able to do it. And we'll run a division, a Premier division. We would run it at 5, and we would still give away the same prizes that we run if we had 10 teams. That's just the demeanor that we are. Like we're just people of our word, and we're gonna go in. And if we're gonna go in, we're gonna go all the way in.
I will say
because the problem a lot of other regional leagues, and Jerry touched on it. Finances, right? Like they don't have the money back. A lot of leagues have a Division 3, but nobody that I can think of consistently has a Division 2. The problem you run into is if you don't have that Division 2, and I understand you may lose some money on that division. If you don't have it, then that talent at Division 2 slides back into D3. And, on all the good little D2 teams, we know that the Snake guy, this guy, those are the really good players on the team. They end up going down to a D3 team. Those D4 teams that step up next season into D3, let's say, end up playing a D3 team that really is probably a D2 team just staying down there. And all of a sudden you have a log jam all the way back to Division 5 because people don't want to move up. And people don't want to move up as this. We deal with it every year. D3 teams that either fold or just try to stay in D3 for another season. But if you don't have somewhere for them to go, you're going to see it. And, you run into an issue that your top 2, 3, 4 teams have all these great players on them. But then you got to start looking at, 8 teams made Sunday or, your next cut. Who was number 9? Who was number 10? Who was number 11? Because if those teams had made Sunday, maybe they stay together as a team because they're having fun. Nobody wants to go 4 prelims and out all season long and still keep playing. I don't know the numbers. We could ask Rail, but I'm pretty sure people that don't ever make a Sunday don't keep playing paintball because it's just not fun, right? Like,
yeah, I can agree.
Or you have to be
that's why I stopped
crazy.
Playing.
I also don't have a chance.
And I also let me touch on it from like a league side, right? And I think this, and I'm not going to put words in other people's mouths just because I only know what me and Mike talk about. But arguably, we're looking at the scores. Mike's looking at the scores wherever we are during the event itself, and literally, we're not necessarily worried about who's 1, 2, and 3. We're looking at to see the teams that are going 0 and 4, because those are the ones that we worry about, because those are the ones that we worry about. Are they having a good time, or are they just going to be done? We legitimately always want to see teams at competing and at least putting forth an effort and getting at least a win. And so we legitimately concern and focus on the teams that we see go 0 and 4, because those are the ones that we actually are rooting for and hoping that we just don't want to see it, right? And I don't know if necessarily all league promoters do it, but we actually take it very, very serious, because that's just what we're in the mindset of, making sure everyone's being able to compete at the same equal and fair value across the board.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all got into this to have fun. At the end of the day, like that's how it all started. Like I had fun with my dad when I first started at Hot Shots 12 years ago. And that's how I got into it. Yep. Shout out to Florida. But that's one of the reasons why I stopped playing competitively for the most part. I went into photography is because one, I'm a co-owner of Kinetic Paintball, so I had to create content for my own company. But at the same time, the team that I was playing for, we went up a division. We went into Division 2. I personally knew that we weren't ready for it. Nobody on my team played Division 2, and I was only ranked Division 2 because points thing from a local league, but that's another story. Yep. But yeah, then we were just getting blown out. Like 0-4, like Vegas, Texas, like 0-4 as well. I mean, we're going up against some good camps, but still, it's like at that point, I'm shelling out all this money. Like I want to win some points. Like I don't want the goal to be to win one match. Like the end goal should be to win the tournament. And if I know that I'm not ready to compete at that level and to like make a Sunday, like I don't want to do that. Cause I'm there to have fun. I definitely understand about like the pro guys, like it's a job, you know what I mean? The higher up you go, the more serious you have to take it and the more of a job you have to take it. But I mean, for the lower divisionals, like if you're going 0-4 and D4, like, and especially if you're still pretty new, like it hurts, you know what I mean? It can make it not fun. And to hear that from a league owner's perspective, like you guys are very concerned about that. Like it's good for the growth of the sport. And that's actually really what I wanted to segue to is like grow paintball has been like a huge thing in the past like year or two. Some people say that it's upon the leagues to help grow the sport. Some people say the leagues are just a business. How do you guys feel about that? And like, what is the WCPPL kind of doing to help grow the sport? And like, are you guys going to try to do new formats and like bring back 7-man like Pro Tour did, or like do something like the Ultimate Shootout? Like, what do you guys?
I mean, to be fair, that's, the HK guys doing the 7-man thing. That's their thing, right? That's short, and those guys, I'm not going to bite what they've done. The one-on-one thing, obviously, Paulie out there has done that. I mean, Greg Paulie is a smart dude. Him and I go way back. He was an aftermath coach as well and spent a lot of time in the camp. He's definitely very intelligent. And Paulie's the guy that in a pandemic is going to come up with a one-on-one format because you're not going to get COVID playing one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I'm not, when I heard that and I just kind of sat back and like snickered to myself, like that's Paulie for you. Like he's a smart dude. So I don't see a need to copy what they're doing. We were a 7-man league to start with, and then we transitioned into X-Ball and then Race 2 and Mercy and whatever we want to call it now. Do I think we will end up going into a different format at someday? Well, history is always your best teacher. And I would say at some point there's going to be a mutation of the current form. Every year there's some kind of small incremental change. Do I see us doing a 10-man out here? Our goal this year was to do a 10-man this year. But with the COVID thing, that's obviously shot in the foot.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think next year at some point there will be a one-off 10-man event out here. I mean, it's a sensitive subject with everything that's happened with Tim and that whole thing. Our goal is to do something like that. But to say we're going to copy somebody else's format, I doubt it. I'm not going to – you got to give credit where credit is due. And those guys are doing their own thing. I think we're going to stick where we're at right now. I mean, ultimately getting to more of a single point style 7-man, 10-man style format is a lower cost for sure. And you can run more teams and make it lower cost. But I think the reality is the customer base, the players that we have now in paintball like the current format. I think, blind layouts or some things like that, like we already do, that people will head towards in time. But it's tough too, because I think if you took the smart people in this industry, there's a couple of them, and you put them all down and we wrote down how paintball should be, and then you said how paintball really is, I don't know how you get to where it should be and how it is without some serious pains, if that makes sense. Just, every year, if you change the rate of fire or this or that, people bitch and complain the whole way. You would think like hell is freezing over. And then the change gets implemented, and with an event, they're like, man, Tom Cole, that was the greatest idea ever. And you're like, yeah, Tom actually is trying to think for the player. They just catch a lot of hand grenades in the process. But back to your point of how do we grow the sport? I mean, I went to the extravaganza and I heard a friend of mine, Billy Sharansky, talk on the panel at the industry luncheon, like what the industry or the leagues are going to do to grow the sport. I mean, the way we're going to grow the sport is the local field having a good experience and people enjoying playing paintball on a 4 times out of the year basis. That's how we're going to grow the sport. Truly, to think the NXL is going to do something to get 100,000 new people to play paintball. I mean, I'm sure Tom's going to try. Bart, Sarge, all the owners that they have there. If there was an easy route for Dave Baines, whoever it is that's owning part of that league now, I think those guys would do it in a heartbeat because they truly love the sport like we all do. But I think it's crazy to think that the NXL or the WCPL is going to grow people. It's crazy to me. Like, the local field has to give a good experience. The local field has to not buy the cheapest ball that they can through the most effed up rental gun that they could possibly have and a goggle with no foam in it and wonder why people don't want to come back and play this. That's where if we're really going to grow paintball, let's get rid of trash paint, get rid of the bad paint, get rid of the bad experience and make people really have fun. Because when I first played paintball with my dad, at Wildwoodies Paintball Park in Julian, California, it was the most fun that I've ever had playing paintball. And we didn't have there wasn't even an electronic gun made back then. We didn't have any of that. It was just playing pump paintball with PGPs, and it was the most fun ever. But now we're out there with just cheap paint, cheap experience, and we wonder why people don't come back. You're not going to grow paintball as long as the experience is. But there's other fields, to be fair, there's fields out here that people do care about their customer and they call them, they want, from me or from HK or from GI, they want a mid to high level ball for the rental ball. Those fields do well. But the ones that want to have, got an $18 case of paint, it's not going to be fun. It's just not a good experience in my opinion. So for the industry to grow and the sport to grow, and you see a lot of people bring a friend out to play paintball. We need more new people to come into it and to truly get hooked on this game like all 4 of us did.
Right.
Play fair.
No, that's 100% right. No, I have nothing to add there. It's just speaking the truth, 100%. Yeah. We see, I see, with the involvement of, with APX now with Mike, buying into that and taking over majority ownership. I see that side of the things now, because I'm involved with it with Mike. Mm-hmm. Like he said, literally people are literally giving the customer any and every excuse to never come back. And that just comes down to the quality of the product they're putting out. So if fields actually genuinely cared about their customer returning, we have to improve that entire aspect. And I think you can ask Mike himself. No one's ever asked him, what is the best ball you can make me? And don't care about the cost. It's always the cost that is the determining factor. And that's just the wrong way to look at it for trying to improve a product. Because at the end of the day, if you have a horrible time as a customer, paint doesn't get shot out, you got bad goggles, guns are all corroded with dirt and dust and debris. I'm never going back, and I'm sure as heck never going to take my kids back. That just screams for me to go do something else. And so at the end of the day, when you're talking about growing the sport, it starts there 100%.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm buddies with Chris Straza, and he owns a field out here in New Jersey, if you guys know him. Yep. Battle Creek Paintball. If you talk to anybody that plays there, they'll say it's probably one of the best fields in the Northeast because, he cares. He built the field basically with him and the other Wolfpack guys. He gets a specialized ball from GI to make sure that it's easy to clean off the bunkers and doesn't corrode the bunkers and the turf that he has. He's gone above and beyond in any way possible. That's just for the speedball side. And I've heard only great things about his woods ball stuff. So I 100% agree. It's leagues can do a little bit, but it's not really on the leagues to help grow the sport. It's those moments where people first interact with it. And it's not even, and most of the time, it's not even from a sport perspective. It's, I'm having a fun time at a birthday party, or it's a bachelor. My buddy's about to get married, so we're doing a bachelor party in the woods.
Like, I mean, when we're talking about grow the sport, like Mike and I do what we can.
Yeah, exactly.
By having the league to keep players to keep coming and practicing and playing and being competitive. Like if we literally we could have all took it as a wash with everything that's going on, and it would have been detrimental. Like the fact that we're able to try to get, you know, 1 event, 2 events. If we can get 3 events, great. But like, it's just to keep people playing and keeping them participating. Like we're doing our part, not by growing it, but just keeping it going and keeping it established. We could easily just walk away, and this entire area, this entire region would be in a complete uproar and would be empty. Without Mike and I doing what we do, there's no way they can get replaced. There's no way. The teams would literally suffer from it.
100%.
As far as leagues go, like you guys aren't growing the sport. Not like you guys are growing the sport, but a lot of people that are going to these leagues, they're already into the sport. So there's a few passerbys that are coming by, but a lot of fields, I don't know about out there, but I know in Florida, a lot of fields, they shut down. The league is there, they're playing, so they don't have those rentals playing alongside and in the woods and seeing the speedball. It's completely clear, and the only people that are there to compete or watch the competing happen.
Right.
So you guys can grow the sport as best as you can, but the people that are there already know about the sport. That's why they're there.
Right.
Yeah, by the time they get downriver to us, right, they've already been in the game. They've been playing for a couple of years before they get into WC. And I mean, by the time they get to us, yes, we can try to give a professional product and be the best we can. But really by then, a lot of people, I truly believe, have a clock above their head running with how much time they're going to be left in this game. And some of us are lifers and we're going to stick it out, keep doing this. But other people, they may have a year or 2 left, and then they're going to find something else cool to do with their time. But, from a field level, you just stop and you look around, another field. Jerry's part of the X Factor camp now. Alex out there has a great, GI makes him a great ball. It's a peg ball. Yeah. But I don't know their business, and I'm not trying to start shit with anybody. But I bet Alex went to GI and said, I want a really good field ball. Okay, it's going to be 20-something a case. Okay, when are my skids going to be here? But the majority of field owners, and I'm not calling anybody out by name, it's all pricing. Oh, how much? 18? Oh, that guy's going to give me $17.50. Literally, we have a running joke at APX, loyalty is 50 cents. Because if you can beat somebody by 50 cents, they're jumping ship on you most times. And that's, I mean, and again, none of us want to tell fields how to do their business, but when somebody's buying an $18 case and turning around selling it for $80, and they think that the only way they can make money in there is to break the paint. I mean, listen, when I started playing paintball, we used RP Sure paint, and it was $110 a case. And you're like, that's insane. But we still paid it back then. And I didn't come for money. My dad was as broke as a joke. And we still played paintball because it was fun. And now we come to a place where, I mean, I never shot a bad RP Sure case of paint. We got some seconds one time. It was just a color, something was wrong in the color of the gel. But now we're at a place from an industry standpoint where we've broken the margins down so far. And you're like, man, any company, name it, my company, that batch wasn't good. Right. Well, when we're making less than 100% profit on manufacturing an item, we have to sell it.
Yep.
And the middleman is buying a second, selling it to you as a first, keeping, because that's the greed factor that comes in. And that's in every industry across the board in our country. But that's really the problem. And I think some field owners have come to the place where they realize people are only going to play once and they don't really care as long as they get them in once or twice or a birthday party group. And that's why and then you go back to the speedball side, like you guys mentioned. I mean, for a long time, our rate of fire was so high. How many times have you guys been on a plane, sat next to older lady, and what do you go? I'm going for a paintball tournament. My grandson played that and he got shot, and the welt was this big and it was bloody, and they froze up. Like all these crazy stories you hear, and you're like, wow, I wonder. I mean, my sons are pretty tough kids. If they had bloody welts sticking off them or some speedballer shot them 20 times, somebody'd be getting their ass whooped. Bet on it. Like, it's just not going to happen, So we wonder why it doesn't grow, because we're out there punishing the new players instead of putting our arm around them. I mean, for me, I've done a lot of cool things in this. I've been blessed to do cool things. And anybody that's Matt Cole, all the guys that started playing with me, I have a guy that works at APX that I played my first day of paintball with, Romero, and he's still my buddy. And whether you're the guy that I started with or the guy I played on Dynasty or with Russians or whoever it is, you're my friend equally. But we think in this sport, because we get to some high level, that it gives us kind of a free pass to just, go out and kick the shit out of the local guy. And I mean, it's just not going to get you anywhere, Like,
yeah,
we have to put our arm around those guys, and same issues we're dealing with in our society, right? We have to be brothers with everybody. And until this sport gets to that place, we're just going to, I heard the saying one time, sometimes you got to burn it down before you rebuild it, right? And really, I've been sitting here for about 5 to 10 years now, wondering when we're going to stop burning this sport down and actually start building it back up. But it appears every year there's just more fuel to throw on the fire and keep burning it down. So, fuck,
The fire just keeps burning.
we're going with complete scorched earth right now.
Yeah, wow. That's a really good way of putting it. Holy shit, I didn't even think about it like that.
It's true, though.
Yeah,
How about
it
this?
is. It is.
How about this? I'm the only U.S. paint manufacturer. There's one in Mexico, great guys. There's one in Canada, great guys. You know how many sponsorship decks I've been sent to sponsor the National League in America? 0. How does that make sense? I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just $60,000 to be a paint vendor.
Jesus, really?
I'll write the check tomorrow.
Wow, that's.
I sponsor Damage. I sponsor Thunder. I sponsor Aftermath. Right?
Yeah.
I have no problem doing my part as a manufacturer to sponsor these guys, but you're not really wanted there. And we wonder again, when we can't bring everybody to the plate. And listen, the big guys that have been there longer than I have no problem with them getting preferential treatment because they've been there from day one, holding it down with the league. I have no issue with that. But when the company halfway around the world gets offered a spot before the American company does, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's that one.
I'm not mad. It's fun. Yeah, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Because then they wonder why regional leagues will grow or the WCBL will expand into the Midwest or the East Coast because they'll give me no other choice.
Yeah.
There's me tipping my hand like it's gonna come. There's no other choice.
East Coast
you're not
WCPPL?
I'm waiting
or
for
anywhere.
it. ECPPL. I'm waiting for it. I will come back and play then.
At some point, what else do we do? But we again
expand.
Grow the sport. And again, the guys that have put the most money up, I have no problem with them being front and center because they've earned that right. Yeah. But when you don't bring anybody, listen, 7-man, we'd go there. There was Zap and XO and Draxus was amazing paint, key paint. Mm-hmm. There was all these different paint. Severe was there. But if you couldn't get a deal with the big guys, you could go to the little guys and XO paint was $40 a case, but it was buy one, get one free. So it was $20 a case. That helped younger teams. But we have to do something to break up that monopoly side of it, because if not, I mean, do you really see the sport growing?
No.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, no, that's really fair. And it makes sense that you're not allowing the competition, because I know there's also like Recoil down in Mexico. I mean, there's
Mike Preto. Grew up with that dude. He's doing the best he can do down there. Recoil makes great paint too, man.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of the HK paint. It's really good paint. Fucking shoot it. Shoot Recoil, shoot HK, shoot GI. Stop supporting India and China. End of story.
I'll take it.
Okay. I'd rather support, I'd definitely rather.
But that's because GI will help other teams out. Recoil will help other teams out. We send containers of paint money back to China and India. What has one of those companies ever done for any U.S. league, regional, local? I'll wait. When was the last time you saw a China airball field? Nah, don't see it. You know what I mean? GI's got fields everywhere. Balkan's got fields everywhere. Stop supporting the people that are not supporting our sport.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, I can
definitely get behind that
movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there doesn't need to be such a civil war about it. Listen, I understand if you're a GI guy and there's so many deep relationships there, stick with it. If you're recoil guy, HK, Valken, that's totally cool. But man, people come to me, oh, this batch of paint was bad for my competitors. And you don't do addition by subtraction. You don't sit here and just fucking hammer the other guys and put them down. Hey, this guy had a bad batch. I had a bad batch. Totally okay. You know what I mean?
It happens.
Yeah.
Recoil's paint has gotten way better. They're doing a great job down there. Like, Mike's trying to push the envelope. HK's done a great job with them. Just again, we don't build the sport up or grow the sport by throwing hammers at each other. I won't do it. I'm not going to be part of that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's tough to see. Like I've always looked at it, and my paintball career was really interesting because I played locally, then I went to college and I played college, so it was a very different dynamic than going to go play regionally or nationally. So I mean, from a college standpoint, like the biggest thing that was an issue for us was budget, because we're all broke college kids. So we would try to get a paint sponsorship through whatever field that we were going through, because at nationals it's they have the paint trucks there, so you had to get on the list. But I mean, I wish it was still that time where all the paint vendors would be there, because it does promote that competitions. You know what I mean? If you can't spend the big bucks at the main paint vendors, you had the little paint vendors that you could go to. And I wish like those paint vendors were able to be at NXL, even if they're not as allowed to have as many trucks there or something. You know what I mean? Like they get some sort of limited capacity.
But what's the next step at it? You tell somebody they have, like in America, what are we going to tell people? They have to set a certain price at $40 a case or $30 a case, because we hear that one all the time. Listen, my company gets hammered on because we sell paint for so cheap. We can't afford to. We only have so many machines.
Yeah.
We have 5 machines. If we sell all of our paint for $15 a case, which it costs us to make in America, give or take, like we can't sell it for that. But it's so hypocritical to hear people talk about what we should sell paint for when those companies themselves, because they have field relations and the field buys 200 Straza. Straza gets a crazy deal. I've heard his deal.
Yeah.
Chris is my friend. He's told me he deserves everything he gets and more. But, people talk about, well, it should all be above 20 or 25. It's so difficult. Listen, as WCPL, if you want to pay me that kind of money, or even the money other regional leagues get, and you want to give all the paint away, rock out, dude. Bring a whole truckload, give it to all my teams, and they're going to be able to afford to play more paintball. That's a good thing. I don't think we should be in a place where we're telling people, and again, X-Ball, race 2, 50 cases, 40 cases. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
expensive.
When I was at Temple, we shot 20 cases in the first half against Cal State Long Beach. In the first half, it was probably the most paint I ever shot in my life. It was crazy. But I mean, that's X-Ball, and we were shooting 12.5 balls per second. So, I mean, as much as I wish halves were still a thing and the penalty box was still a thing, I totally understand why the morphing of the format has gone to where it is. From a scheduling perspective, making the barrier to entry for cost is much easier, because I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you price somebody out, I can't play it. I could play one event all year, or in one league, or I could play 5 events or 3 events in another league. So it's
we see it in paintball, right? We see a lot of players recycle back through.
Yeah,
I've seen there's some old school California guys that have come back recently, and I see them guys that played on the Bushwhackers with DJ, JP. Like you see them there, and you're like, hey man, it's been 10 years, and I think that says that paintball is fun. Paintball is still a lot of fun. So, because people keep coming back to it. Like you said, the problem becomes, if I got to worry about kids are starting school and I got 5 kids in this house that I got to put clothes on their back or going to play paintball, paintball is just getting put to the back burner because it's just expensive. And again, not saying we should make it free. I'm not saying anything like that. It's just at some point you have to stop, look at how much it's costing. Regional players from Florida playing nationally are paying $1,500 a player to go to it. It's just a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What is expensive? That's why I never played nationals. It was, once I heard about how much it was, I was like, shoot, like I wasn't making a lot, and I was like, I have a car payment, or I have NXL. So
life.
Yeah, life is
Comes
more
down to life.
important.
yeah.
But I mean, since we're talking about NXL, like we've had a great discussion about WC, and thank you guys so much for it. I know that a lot of questions that we've been asked have been about Aftermath, and I mean, like I think we should start at the beginning. Is like the newest revitalization